I'd like to welcome everyone to today's presentation. I am Tsepo Mkwanazi, a consultant from HR Talk Outsourcing. Today's presentation will be about an intro to job hunting and what you need to know um, after or what a normal employee would need to know after they get trained. Please note that we will hold all our questions for the session and we'll be answering them at the end. If you have any questions, there's a question function in which you can insert your questions on. And after the presentation, we'll just answer your questions. So in proceeding with the presentation again, it's an intro to job hunting, what you need to know. Okay, this presentation will have 6 sections. Section A, how should you handle your affairs and money after being retrenched? Section B will dive into the CV. Section C will be looking at how you can apply for jobs. Section D will be looking into your candidacy after you've been shortlisted. And Section E will be talking about the interview. And Section F are important things that you should know once you get the job that you would be applying for. Now, Section A, how should you handle your affairs and money after being retrenched? Now, we'll start at the point where you get your severance package. First off, what is a severance package? A severance package is compensation paid to an employee after employee's employment is over. The severance packages are usually given to employees who are retrenched or have mutual terminations. Now, here's the big problem. People receive and hastily spend their severance packages without considering the implications of spending it. If you spend your severance package, you will not be able to stay afloat during the period in which you will be searching for a job. Now, when spending your severance package, here are some financial tips that you need to keep in mind. Don't spend your severance package. Try to put it aside to carry you through the months that you may be unemployed. You also need to apply for UIF benefits after being retrenched. Check if you have retrenchment cover to cover your debts or monthly repayments. And contact creditors to inform them of your retrenchment. You may be able to apply for a payment holiday. Inform your family and friends so that they can understand your financial situation and create a budget and stick to it. Now, I'd like us to dive deeper into budgets now. Now, there are some things that you need to consider when budgeting. In our previous slide, we spoke about not spending your severance package at all because it was found that most employees, as soon as they receive their severance packages, they spend them. Now, when talking about budgets, everyone needs to know or budget for their monthly living expenses. One has to know how much their life costs on a monthly basis. Doing a budget helps you to know how much your life needs on a monthly basis in order for you to calculate the amount needed against your retrenchment package and also determine how long you have until your coffers run dry. If you do that, at least you'll know how many months you have afloat before you start not having money. So it's easier that way to actually compare what you have against what you will need in future. Now, here's the pertinent question. Since there's more talent pool, the talent pool has grown bigger due to companies retrenching. How much time will it take for you to actually get a new job. When calculating how long your retrenchment packages will last, pay mind to the fact that the job hunting period has drastically extended due to other companies retrenching and companies being reluctant to hire due to the COVID crisis. So if it would take you a year to find a new job, it's suggested that you consider the possibility that it can take you 2 years to find a new job, as there's a bigger talent pool companies can choose from. Now, there's also money that you need in order to apply for a new job. It's not when budgeting against your package, always remember that nowadays you also need money to apply for a new job. Applying for a new job needs money, and you need to budget for such monies on your retrenchment packages, as you do not know how many jobs you'll apply for, how many interviews you'll be attending, and the transport that you'll need, how many CVs you'll need to print, how much data you'll need to apply. Please budget a high amount for this. Below are the items you should consider and plan for in your budget. Now, the first big factor is internet. Most jobs are advertised on the internet nowadays, and in order to access them, you'll need data. Therefore, you need to budget for the data. Now, faxing and posting, although it's old, but other jobs such as government jobs still need one to either fax or post their CV. Faxing and posting need money, and if you do not budget for it, you will not be able to apply to your fullest capacity, therefore limiting your chances to get a job. Now, there's also printing. Even if you'll be applying using the internet, you still need to print and certify your educational qualifications, and that needs money. If you're going to fax or post your job applications, then you'll need to have money to do that too. So let's talk about your academic record. Some jobs need you to have an updated or recent academic record. In order to attain the academic record, institutions usually require people to pay. Let's talk about transport. As you do not know how many interviews you might need to attend in order to get a job, you need to budget for a lot of money for transport, because you need to travel even out of town in order to attend an interview. Once you get the job, please remember that you need to have to pay for your own transport for the first month and your lunch. So that should also be in your budget. You need to also budget for clothes. Some companies require candidates to arrive wearing a specific dress code. And if you want to impress them during your interview, you need to dress accordingly. This means that you may have to buy certain clothing and even update your wardrobe if you do not have any form of clothing. So, how to calculate the above, all of these factors that I've spoken about right now, against your severance pay? It's wise to not spend your severance pay at all or on anything that you don't need, and keep a considerable amount of money for the above purposes. It's hard to actually drill it down to the actual amounts. So at the end of the day, estimations will help. You also need to make room for miscellaneous factors that influence your calculations. We all have families. We all have children that need things from school. We also do not know whether we'll need to have medical expenses in the future. So at the end of the day, it's wise to keep money aside for unforeseen expenses, such as the school's kids' fun days, family events, and medical expenses. So at the end of the day, the main idea is that once you get your severance pay, you do not spend it on anything that you do not seriously need. Now, what to do as soon as possible? It's the day where it's your last day at work and you're going back home. What should you do as soon as possible? You have to start looking for a new job. Hit the ground running. Start applying for a new job as soon as possible. This will help you to save as much money as you can, and it will cause less strain on your affairs. Now, job options available. You can volunteer in an organization that needs your skills in hopes for the company to hire you in future. You can also apply for jobs that are fixed-term contracts. In situations where companies have positions available that are open for a limited amount of time, you can apply in order to help your financial situation and experience. Now, let's dive into the CV. What is a curriculum vitae? A CV is a brief account of a person's education, qualifications, and previous occupations, and is typically sent with a job application. Now, here are the basics of a CV. There's no universally accepted way of writing a CV, though. But it should at least cover the below. Your details, including your name, address, phone numbers, email address, so that any interested employer can contact you easily. So, information such as nationality, age, and driving license status are optional, but they're highly recommended that you put them in your CV. Personal statement, just a short paragraph that immediately captures the attention of your reader and entices them to find out more about you is needed in your CV. Be careful not to cram too much in it though. Instead, take your main skill and relate it to the job that you're after to show the employers why you meet their needs. Now, you also need your work experience in your CV. List your most recent position first, continuing in reverse chronological order, including the name, location, website, and dates of your employment for each company you have worked for. But aim to use bullet points whenever possible to highlight your responsibilities and achievements in each role. So the person scanning your CV can quickly match up your experience with your description. Okay, another thing that is needed is your education. Again, in reverse chronological order, you give brief details of your academic and professional qualifications, along with the grades that you achieved. If you're looking for your first job since leaving education, include this information above. Any work experience that you might have uh, 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 attained. Now, there's a difference between education and skills. You need to highlight the particular skills that you attained either during your job, doing your job, or during your schooling days, if it's a new CV, or whether you're new to the job market. Now, whether you realize it or not, you will have picked up many skills over the years, some tangible, some less so. Include every IT package or program you have used, as well as any foreign language skills you have gained, and state whether you're at basic, intermediate, or advanced level. Skills such as communication and project management are harder to substantiate and should be backed up by examples. Now, hobbies and interests. Including these is optional and often used to fill up space at the end of the document. The idea is to give the interviewer a more rounded picture and perhaps something more personal to discuss at an interview with. So, references. This is a big one. You'll need to choose references that you're confident will give possible remarks about you. But you should also make sure that they would be easily contactable by potential employers when the time comes. Now, let's talk about the cover letter. A CV also needs to have a cover letter. Your CV should have a cover letter, as employers usually determine your writing skills and your ability to portray your skills through it. So it's not just a letter depicting who you are and what you're about, but it's an easy way for an employer to actually see whether your comprehension is on point and also how you present yourself towards people. Now, the format of the CV. You always keep your CV short, direct, and on an A4. And most importantly, it should be clear to anyone reading your CV where to find the information that they're looking for, with enough white space to ensure that you're not they're not overwhelmed at first glance. So the most important thing is you keep your CV Simple, direct, and as soon as a person reads your CV, they shouldn't be overwhelmed by the information in there, by the amount of information in there. Now, what to leave out in your CV? You leave out anything that is not professional. For example, being the beer pong champion at Joe's Pub. That will not help you find a new job. If you have left school for more than 5 years previously, exclude your accolades, such as being the chess team champion, or you are awarded 100%. You are awarded for 100% attendance at school. Now, how to make your CV more attractive and stand out from the rest? Now, you start with a summary of your skills and key accomplishments. This will attract the recruiter and grab their attention from the onset. Just a short paragraph or couple of bullet points depicting these skills and key accomplishments, so that the person reading your CV will know what they're dealing with or who they're dealing with. Now, number two, you emphasize results rather than responsibilities. With most CVs, people give us their KPIs and KPAs. Now, at the end of the day, the most important way to actually emphasize uh, your responsibilities and actually emphasize your productivity in a company that you've worked with is for you to actually depict your results. You customize the CV for the job that you want. It's okay to have 5 CVs for 5 different types of jobs that you qualified for, as long as you've customized it so that you are the best candidate for the actual job. You highlight your career growth on your CV and also demonstrate that you are connected, that you can network with people. And that will also help the employer see that you can work in groups, especially because at work we work in groups. And you have to show insight, a project that you've worked on, and something that shows that you have insight with particular things that are relevant to the job that you are applying for. That works to your advantage. Now, things that make your CV unappealing to an employer. Now, resist the urge to jazz up your CV with images or color. I've seen CVs with a small professional image or professional photo of the candidate. Well, the most important thing is if the job doesn't really require you to have your picture on your CV, you do not need to put your picture on the CV. Steer clear of long paragraphs. At the end of the day, they just want to know whether you're the right person for the job. So if you make them read an essay, it wouldn't work towards your advantage. Careful use of bold type can be effective, but do not overdo it. Underline should be reserved for website links only. Use typefaces like Times New Roman or Arial as they're easier to read. Avoid using font sizes smaller than 11. Employers won't strain their eyes to read it. Don't use text speak and only use abbreviations if they are usually universally known. Text speak is the type of typing that we use when we are on WhatsApp or any form of social network, and we abbreviate. So do not abbreviate unless they are usually universally known and also formal, or rather used on an office basis or official basis. Now, let's talk about referrals. Depending on the company policy, it can be your immediate manager or the human resource department. It's wise right after your retrenchment or during the process for you to know or ask who you can use as your referral. If you can make your immediate manager your reference, inform them that you'll be using their details in your CV and gain the approval for such information being used. It's wise and also it's legally compliant to actually ask for your references approval for their personal numbers to be used and also names and emails. Now, certified supporting documentation. Most employers require employees or future employees or candidates to actually certify their supporting documentation. Always certify your supporting documents to assure the potential employer that your documentation is legitimate. Supporting documents are certificates for each and every qualification or skill you mentioned to have in your CV. So every qualification that you say you have on your CV, you need to have a supporting document or a form of certificate certifying that you are qualified for that qualification. Now, let's talk about social media, which is a big situation. Potential employers look at your social media in order to determine the type of person you are. Please avoid posting things that may lead you to being perceived as inappropriate. Check your social media posts from the past and delete anything that may be inappropriate. A couple of months earlier, we saw how social media can ruin careers with the Miss South Africa competition, where it was found that a particular person posted racial things on their social media a couple of years ago while they were still young, and it came back and to bite them. Now, Section C, applying for jobs. Where to apply for jobs? You can apply for jobs on the below outlets, company websites, online recruitment websites. You can use newspapers to find job listings. You can apply on Facebook. And also you've got other options such as LinkedIn. So basically, it's a whole array of options where you can find jobs. So now, how to apply? On company websites, you need to register to log into their website. After so, you would need to complete and upload your CV in order for you to successfully apply for open positions in the institution. Online recruitment websites, you may need to register too to log into their website. And it's actually the same process. You have to insert your details and upload your CV. And at the end of the day, you can search for any job that you may occupy in the website and apply for it. Now, a big warning. There are scammers that require applicants to send money in order to be considered for positions. Most jobs do not need anyone to pay money in order for them to get positions. Please note, legitimate jobs do not need people to pay in order to be considered for jobs. Now, Section D, we're talking about candidacy now. If you've applied for a job and a company calls you for an interview, there's information that you need to confirm with them. What time is your interview? On the actual call where they call you and tell you that you have an interview, you need to confirm the time of the interview, the date of the interview, the place of the interview. Now, the biggest thing, make sure that you know the street, the building, and the boardroom of where the interview will take place, because you might find that it's a big building and it might have multiple boardrooms. You need to know the dress code, the documentation to bring. Some companies require you to bring original certificates for authentication for every certificate that you said that you might have. Also, you have to confirm their website. Ask for the company's website in order for you to do your research on the company before attending an interview. with its representatives. Now, what to do when preparing for your interview? You research about the company. That's the first thing. Do thorough research about the company in order for you to perceive the type of environment you might encounter when you get to the company. Google Maps the company so you can know how far the company is from where you live. Remember, we said you also need to budget for transport. This is where, when Google Maps it, or when checking where the company's location on Google Maps, it's going to help you actually budget for the actual transport that you will need. Now, check the company's about page on their website to know more about it. Check the company's reviews on Google in order for you to know what people think of the company. There are a lot of companies in the world, and when you type the company's name, Google can give you websites where such companies are reviewed by previous employees or customers. Now, preparing for your interview, you coordinate your transport arrangements so you get there on time. Now, if you're using taxis to get to the company, the taxis you have to take, know the taxis that you need to take in order to get there. Know the taxi ranks, and the waiting times if you have to go to the interviews using multiple taxis that are different, that are in different taxi ranks. Now, when using your car, make sure that your car will not give you problems on your way to the interview. Check for routes with less traffic in order to decrease your chances of being stuck in a traffic jam or an accident. Now, you also have roadworks that may deter you from getting to your interview on time. On the night before the interview and on the day of the interview, actually in the morning, check if there will be roadworks on your way to the interview in order for you to leave early and use alternative routes. Now, when to arrive on the day of the interview. Please note, do not arrive too early and do not arrive late at all. The perfect time to arrive for an interview is 15 minutes prior to the starting time. In such a way, you can read the atmosphere and prepare yourself for the interview. If you're running late, call and let them know. What to wear in your interview? So, as in the original call where they actually tell you that you have an interview, you would have asked what to wear. If they say formal, in an interview requiring you to be wearing formal, do not go overboard with your formal attire. Keep it simple and do not dress ostentatiously. Now, if they say you can come wearing smart casual, when the interview is smart casual, do not wear shorts or V-neck t-shirts. A chino and a golf shirt are acceptable. Tackies and sneakers are not acceptable. Now, we are getting into the big interview. How to present yourself during the interview. Here are some basics. Be confident, but not cocky. Answer the questions. Wait for them to engage until you are asked to engage. Respond formally. Do not use slang language. Show that you know the job and refrain from giving personal opinions unless you're asked. And when you're asked, be generic in your answer. Maintain eye contact during the interview. You're not there, remember that you're not there to be liked, you're there to show that you can do the job. Now, words not to say. Do not use slang, do not swear, do not use socially inappropriate phrases, such as racial, ethnical, and discriminatory phrases. How to present yourself in the interview, and also how to anticipate the important and frequent questions that are asked in an interview. Now, here's a question that almost every interviewer asks. Tell me about yourself. Now, these are tips that you will need to keep in mind. When they ask you that question, no, your interviewers will probably start out with a question about yourself and your background to get to know you. Start out by giving them an interview or overview of your current position and activities. Then provide the most important and relevant highlights from your background that make you most qualified for the role. Another question that they may ask, how would you describe yourself? Here's a tip. When an interviewer asks you to talk about yourself, they're looking for information about how your qualities and characteristics align with the skills they believe are required to succeed in the role. If possible, include quantifiable results to demonstrate how you use your best attributes to drive success. If they ask you what makes you unique, this is how you should respond. Or this is what you should keep in mind. Employers often ask this question to identify why you might be more qualified than other candidates that they're interviewing. To answer, focus on why hiring you would benefit the employer. Since you don't know the other applicants, it can be challenging to think about your answer in relation to them. Addressing why your background makes you a good fit will let employers know why your traits and qualifications make you well prepared. Now, if they ask you, why do you want to work here? Here's a tip. Interviewers often ask this question as a way to determine whether or not you took the time to research about the company, and learn why you see yourself as a good fit for the company. The best way to prepare for this question is to do your homework and learn about the products, the services, the mission, the history, and the culture of the workplace. In your answer, mention the aspects of the company that appeal to you and also align with your career goals. Explain why you're looking for these things in an employer. Now, another question, what are your greatest strengths? Here's a tip. This question gives you an opportunity to talk about both your technical and soft skills. To answer, share qualities and personal attributes and then relate them back to the role in which you are interviewing for. Now, what are your greatest weaknesses? It can feel awkward to discuss your weaknesses in an environment where you're expected to focus on your accomplishments. However, when answered correctly, sharing your weaknesses can actually show that you are self-aware and want to continuously get better at your job. Traits that are extremely attractive to many employers. Now, remember to start with the weakness and then discuss the measures you've taken to improve. This way, you're finishing your answer in a positive note, and you are showing that you are willing to grow in your role. Now, if they ask you, can you tell me about a difficult work situation and how you overcame it? Here's a tip. This question is often used to assess how well you perform under pressure and as well as your problem-solving abilities. Keep in mind, your stories are more memorable than facts and figures, so strive to show instead of tell. This is also an excellent opportunity to show your human side and how you're willing to go the extra mile without being asked. Now, if you ask, what is your salary range expectation? Now, this is a tricky one, but here's a tip. Interviewers ask this question to make sure your expectations are in line with the amount they've budgeted for the role. If you give a salary range exceedingly lower than or higher than the market value of the position, it gives off the impression that you don't know your position or your worth. Research the typical compensation range for the role on Indeed salaries and tend toward the higher side of the range. Be sure to let the hiring manager know if you're flexible with your rate. Now, if they ask you, why should we hire you? While this question may seem like an intimidation tactic, interviewers generally bring this question up to offer you another opportunity to explain why you're the best candidate for the job. Your answer should address the skills and experience you offer and why you're a good culture fit for the company. Now, the famous, do you have any questions? You will get this question in each and every interview. This might be one of the most important questions asked during the interview process because it allows you to explore any subject that hasn't been addressed and shows the interviewer that you're excited about the role. But by this point, you likely have already covered most of the basics about the position and the company. So take time to ask the interviewer questions about their experiences with the company and gain tips on how you can succeed if you're hired by the company. Okay, so as we know, when a company is interviewing, there are a lot of candidates that they interview. How do you set yourself apart in an interview? Here are some tips and pointers. Don't make the interviewer dig for answers. Make sure that you explain what you need to as best as you can. That shows depth of knowledge. Leave the generic responses at home. Great candidates usually have a unique point of view and thoughtful answers to questions that they are asked. Don't be afraid to gather your thoughts in front of the interviewer before responding to a question, rather than rushing to give a generic answer that the interviewer has probably heard 100 times during the interview process. Now, you also need to quantify your value. If you have numbers to back up your experience, use them. Whether it's money saved or earned for the company, time saved, efficiencies introduced, or other quantifiable successes. Be sure to articulate them during the interview process. Show that you can, another way to actually set yourself apart is to show that you can take initiative. Effectively communicate that you're the type of employee who takes an initiative. Even at entry level, companies hire individuals who will evolve into leaders. Convey this during the interview by providing an example of a product which you self-started or even went above and beyond to fulfill. Now, you're done with the interview, you did everything well. The waiting period. After your interview, how long should you wait in order to determine whether you got the job or not? Or wait for the company to call you back? Usually it takes 2 weeks. After that, you have to move on and assume that you didn't get the job because you need to stay. Remember, after being retrenched, you need to stay afloat. And some companies actually even take 3 months. But it's better off waiting for 2 weeks than after assuming that you didn't get the job. In order for when you actually get the job, or if you actually get the job, to already be financially afloat. Now, section F. Once you get the job, you need to do the below. First off, mind your finance. The first month is the hardest as you'll need to have budgeted for transport and lunch without knowing how far your job is from where you stay. Clothing. You might need a new wardrobe because different companies have different uniforms or clothing preferences. Mind the company culture. Take the first month to analyze and get used to the company culture. Every company, just as every household, has its own implicit and explicit rules that you have to and you need to follow them. Take time to learn them first. Trial and error or imposing yourself on others leads you to being jobless after probation due to too many errors made. The working environment is a delicate balance that kicks out whoever threatens it. Please note that. Now, it's the end of our presentation. Thank you for um, uh, waiting to pose questions. Um, I'll just give you some time to pose any questions that you have. I have a person in the office who's writing down all of your questions for me. Um, Apparently, there are no questions. Please note that we will send the slideshow. And please email us if you have any questions and we will assist. Please note that this presentation is also available in Zulu, and we offer it as an in-house service at HR Talk. Thank you.